Welcome back to another episode of Building the Pride. I'm your host, Drew, solo today. And I'm going to update our banner so that we can reflect the name of the show today, which is A New Era in Detroit. Oops. Let's call this Brad and Dan 2.0. Okay. So let's show it. There we go. So I didn't get this. I didn't come up with this name. I saw it somewhere on the internet and thought that it was pretty applicable. So I wanted to talk about it a little bit because today's the de facto start of free agency, and the Lions have some holes to fill. But I think what's more interesting is they have created holes on the roster up until this point in the offseason, and really, really unusual approach, in my opinion, from the organization standpoint. So I wanted to talk about it. We have the David Montgomery situation, which, in my opinion, went like something like this. Just kind of recap briefly. David Montgomery's not used very much during the regular season for various reasons. Is unhappy with his workload, gives that feedback to the organization. Then the next thing we hear is Brad Holmes, I believe at the combine, with a quote that read something to the effect of, well, we want players that want to be here, when asked about David Montgomery, intimating that David Montgomery didn't want to be here, intimating that there could have been a trade request. Then I believe there was a report from Jeff Risdon that said that David Montgomery had requested a trade. David Montgomery then on Instagram or Twitter, refuted that claim, and then he was traded the next day. So the way it looks to me, David was unhappy with his role in 2025, gave that feedback. I don't believe he actually requested a trade. Was traded. So now you had a system of 1 and 1A, or 1A and 1B, two-headed giant running back room that had worked well for years. Sonic and Knuckles, all the marketing opportunities in the world are there. Now it's just Sonic and Jahmyr Gibbs. Okay. So what do the Lions do at running back 2? You could even make an argument that there's a need at running back 3 because Craig Reynolds was picked up by the New England Patriots and is no longer on the roster. So a week later, we have Taylor Decker comes out on Instagram and announces that he is coming back for his 11th season with the team. Excellent. No problem there. Happy that he's back. One less problem, right? Okay. So he's back for 5 minutes or a couple of days or whatever. And it turns out that the Lions have approached him about taking a pay cut. Taylor Decker doesn't want to take a pay cut, so he says, I'm not interested in that. And so they said, well, we probably can't guarantee you a starter's role, which I think is ridiculous because who else is going to be your left tackle? So he says, okay, release me then. And it turns out that they agreed to a release. So what does that do? That saves them just under $12 million, makes them cap compliant at the start of the new year, which I believe is the 15th. So 6 days. And then they have said they're going to release Graham Glasgow. They make the David Montgomery trade. They get back a player in that trade, Juice Scruggs, who can play all three interior positions. I don't know how well he can play them. I wouldn't imagine it's that well. Let's look up let's look him up on PFF. Juice Scruggs. It's a hell of a nickname. Okay, so let's view him in premium stats. Offense. And then I'll add the screen. That's the wrong screen. We will figure this out. That's the one. That's the one right there. Okay, so here's Juice Scruggs. So I believe that he was a second-round pick out of Penn State. 2023, he has an overall grade of 47. 2024, he plays his most snaps of his career, almost 1,000 snaps. He has a grade of 63.5, so that's just above replacement level. And then last year, he's back down to under 400 snaps, and he's back down to a 45. He is I guess, a slightly better pass protector than he is a run blocker, but I mean, like, I don't see that there's that much difference there, you know? And so, like, this guy is not to the level of a Graham Glasgow. So he's not going to be your starting. If he's your starting center, I'd be shocked. So he's probably your interior offensive line backup for your three interior line spots. He's your backup center, left guard, right guard. Okay, fine. That's fine. Not a big deal. Let's see. He is 6'3", 308. Yep, he did go to Penn State. He was a second-round pick. Yep, so telling the truth on that. But this is not a guy that I would think that the Lions would be relying upon in their offensive line rotation, starting offensive line rotation. So good depth, probably, right? Young, cost-controlled contract. It's going to be good for the cap. They got back a 4th-round pick this year for Montgomery and a 7th-round pick next year for him. And they're a worse team today than they were at the end of the season. So if Taylor Decker had just retired, you'd still save the same amount of money. But now he's going to play for, maybe a team that you're going to play. Like, there's already rumors of him joining the Bears, on like a one year, kind of a gap contract. And, which makes sense. He's familiarity with Ben Johnson. It's not that far. Probably doesn't have to uproot his family. So, yeah, that's a possibility. Like, I don't like the idea of cutting a guy and then having him go play for your divisional opponent. At least Monty's in the other conference, So for whatever, the Lions were already talking about needing a replacement left tackle for when Decker did retire. And even when he came back, people wanted that to be the plan moving forward. Like, we're still going to draft a left tackle of the future, right? So Taylor Decker returning didn't do anything for alleviating a need on the roster. You just were spared, you were spared like having to make one or having to go do it, and then you might have a year of Taylor Decker like helping that rookie and the rookie being able to ease into the role. And now you don't have that because they basically were like, well, you're going to have to take this pay cut if you want to be guaranteed a starter's role. And I don't know why you do that if you're the Lions, because you're not going to be able to go out and get a left tackle at the quality of Taylor Decker for what you saved by releasing him, 11.6 million. And then he could be playing for a rival or just even a team that you play against this season. And so he knows all of your calls, all of your switches, all of your all of your play call, all of your whole offense. And now if you draft a left tackle, which it seems like you're more apt to do, that player, that kid is going to have to play right away. So all of this makes me believe that the person playing left tackle next year for the Detroit Lions is Penei Sewell. So we will see, but I'm gonna do a mock draft here so we can kind of add in some context here to the off-season problems that we've been talking about. Yeah, so one of the other problems here is that offensive tackle is going to be one of the three positions in the NFL draft that gets artificially pushed up. So it's quarterbacks, tackles, and edge rushers. Those positions get drafted highly because there's not a lot of them, and like history has shown that you find quality players of those positions like in the top half of the first round. So here we have this draft. Wow, Dallas traded up to 3. So Mawagnoa goes 6. Freeling goes 12th. Fano goes 13th. So there's the top 3 tackles off the board. So what does that leave Detroit? So you can draft, I think there's these 4 players right here that are in the mix in the Lions' first round pick. And that's Caden Proctor, Caleb Lomu, Blake Miller, and Max Ahenachor. If I had to take a guess as to who they would go with, I'm betting it's Blake Miller, who's been described as a Taylor Decker clone, but has only played right tackle. So I think that, I mean, you could switch him and have him play left tackle, or you can switch Penei Sewell, and then have him play left tackle. So I don't know. Caden Proctor has played left tackle, but I think now with like the way that the Lions have approached this offseason, they're locked in to taking one of these tackles right now, which goes against what Brad Holmes has tried to do in the offseason every year. So very interesting approach. Okay, so here we are at 50. So with the way that the Lions are approaching their offensive line, like I wouldn't be surprised at all if they were looking to switch Tate Ratledge to center. So Tyler Biadasz was cut and then almost immediately signed. The Bears, Drew Dahlman retired. They immediately trade a 5th rounder to the Patriots for Garrett Bradbury. The Bills have gone out and locked up Connor McGovern. So, I mean, there's a couple of other free agent centers still out there. But unless you're willing to make a run at Tyler Linderbaum and make him the game's highest paid center, I don't know what you do. I don't know that there is a center out there that was better than Graham Glasgow. So I hope that there is. If that guy is Cade Mays from Carolina, then That's one thing. But Carolina could re-sign him any moment. He may not make it to free agency. Same thing with like Luke Fortner from New Orleans. Like these teams might try and save their interior offensive line depth and not let it hit free agency. It does seem to be quite a high priority for teams this year, and the center class is not great. Like Connor Lew from Auburn is on the board here, but he had a torn ACL near the end of the season. Let's see. An ACL injury represents a key recent setback that teams will have to consider. So you would need to have some kind of like good medical sign off on Connor Lew if you were looking at drafting him here. But like you might be, if you're interested in Tyler Linderbaum, you're probably interested in any center in this particular draft. So like if you're the Lions and you go, if you feel like you're locked into a tackle in round one, and like here you are at the midway point through the second round or bottom third of the second round, you've got Emmanuel Pregnon from Oregon. You could have him, you could draft him, and he'd be an upgrade over Christian Mahogany. And then your line would look something like Proctor, Pregnon, missed question mark, Tate Ratledge, Penei Sewell. And half of your line is a bunch of rookies this year. Like, I just don't understand how people think that that's going to be an improvement. Or you draft Connor Lew here, and your line looks something like Proctor, Mahogany, Lew, who's recovering from an ACL and would have to play center in the NFL as a rookie, Ratledge, Sewell. So, like, I don't think that either one of those two things are good. I think the better play here would be to take the guard, and then hopefully you sign at least a replacement level center in free agency. But like, as far as I am concerned, after pick 50, the Lions draft is over. Brad Holmes has done a not a very good job, outside of like Amon-Ra St. Brown and Derek Barnes in his first draft back in 2021, when it comes to drafting players that stick on the roster, outside of round 3. Like, he is a day 1, day 2 drafter, which can continually like makes me scratch my head because he continually trades third round picks. I believe that he's traded 4 third round picks over the last 3 years, and like that's where he's effective when it comes to drafting players. So he's given away the ammunition where he's good, and the players that he's drafted haven't all necessarily worked out right now. So like I'm thinking about players like Tesla looks like a good player, but he's also like the 5th pass catcher on your team. And so like we got lucky here, and Sam Roush is on the board in round 4. A tight end for the Drew Petzing's new tight end room. But and we could take another one, I suppose, and Justin Jolie. Yeah, Katron Allen you could take here. Damon Claiborne. So there's some talent. But I'm like, now we're talking about like tight end 3 and 4, running back 3, possibly 2 or 3, and like some of those. So I'll take Katron Allen here, that kind of thing. But like, this is the problem when you trade future picks for Giovanni Manu and Sione Vaki. This is the problem when you trade up and you give away a lot of capital for Broderick Martin, a MAC nose tackle who never worked out. This might be the problem if you don't pass the ball to Isaac Tesla as your 5th pass catcher and you traded 3 third round picks for him. I'll take JC Davis just to be like the new Dan Skipper. I'm going to draft those Indiana kids. Hmm. So let's look to see who we took here. So when you have to force draft picks, I think it looks a lot like this. Like your day one picks, your day two picks become what you are forced to draft. And not that these are bad players, but like now you are basically, in my opinion, saying that the season and whether or not the season is going to be a good one or bad one are going to rest largely about how well your rookies play when they have to start. And that's a tall ask for anybody, especially a second round pick and a tackle. I do think it will probably set Detroit up pretty well for the future to draft those guys now, but like the Lions drafting for the future should be something that is all done by now, right? The Lions roster should no longer be in a state where every pick is continually about like looking towards the future, right? The Lions should be trying to invest in ready-made NFL players through day one and day two who can come in and contribute both on special teams and as at the very least backups, right? And the cap savings that they got from releasing Decker, releasing Glasgow, and trading Montgomery was about $14 million, which makes them cap compliant. Okay, are you still going to have to? You're still going to have to restructure players on the roster to have monies to sign your practice squad, your rookie class, and if you want to sign any free agents, which you're going to sign because the roster is going to balloon up to 90 players. So I don't know that the moves that were made on the team so far matter for they're not going to matter in the sense that like I guess it buys them a little bit more time, but I don't know that it's going to matter when it comes to like who the Lions are able to approach in free agency, how many of their people they're going to be able to sign, and like what it really affects, other than the fact that like there are good players no longer on the team that the Lions are going to have to replace immediately. So I'm very unhappy with the way that the off season, the way that the season and the off season this year have gone. But hopefully, when we get some clarity between now during the legal tampering period, like we'll get some more clarity between who the Lions might approach on day one. And then on Wednesday at 4, like free agency will officially begin. The new league year will start. We'll start doing pro days and that kind of thing. And maybe we'll be able to narrow down who the Lions are going to visit and might have interest in. But I don't know at this point. I mean, like it seems like for the first time in a handful of years, the Lions are going to be really relying on young talent to step up and play well immediately in order to have a good season, a season of better than 500. So we will see, but I mean, maybe I could entirely be wrong. So let's hope. Let's hope that I'm wrong. Let's hope the Lions are right. Stay warm and stay safe out there, guys. I'll talk to you again soon.